Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the panel, the Cornerstone of Web 3.0, Self-Sovereign Identity. Let's start with a round of self-introduction. My name is Yang. I've been with ILSG Ventures for less than a year, but my journey with crypto or blockchain started in 2017. Yeah, it's a fascinating area. The first time I've heard of this digital identity, this concept was when I read the Ethereum white paper. I was really shocked by how this blockchain technology can enable in what we represent in our digital life. Yeah. Next, I'll pass to Oleksandr from Polygon ID.
Thanks. My name is Oleksandr Brezhniev. I'm a lead developer at Polygon ID, working with developing self-sovereign identity solutions there. My first touch of crypto was probably in 2013 or something. Then in 2014, I really started developing already some things on top of Bitcoin. And then when Ethereum came, it was like, yeah, I need to do that. I need to develop something on top of Ethereum. And in 2018, I think I discovered for myself self-sovereign identity, and that's when I started experimenting with that. So that's how I'm here. Thanks.
Hey guys, I'm Sam Gbafa from Spruce. At Spruce, we do a lot of stuff with self-sovereign identity in Web3. We have a lot of libraries and are really working on trying to make it available to developers in Web3. So yeah, for myself personally, I've been into, I guess, crypto maybe since like 2014, in and out, I guess, but really started working in the space early this year, and particularly in self-sovereign identity, which is what we're here to talk about. So.
Hi, so I'm Clement. I started crypto in 2013, mainly as a hobbyist, and as a professional in 2017, where I co-founded Claros, a dispute resolution court, and also in terms of self-sovereign identity, we also created Proof of Humanity, which is a system for CP resistance.
Hello everyone, my name is Afra Wang. I'm from Mask Network. I'm here to represent actually two new products my company has been developing. One is called Next ID, which is the self-sovereign identity system we're all going to talk about later. And another is called the Firefly app. It's going to be a mobile app that aggregates different DIDs, and it's actually resonates with a lot of Elon Musk has been proposing for Twitter, and which I can introduce more. It's going to be a manifestation of all kind of DIDs. We're going to include Farcaster and Lens to integrate all of them into our DID profile, and which I can, explain later. For me, my journey with Web3 really starts from the essential part of decentralization and the pursuit of independence, as I have a journalistic background. I'm probably the only very, very non-tech person in this panel, but I would like to provide more dimensions from other aspects.
Thank you for the introduction, self-introductions. Self-sovereign identity is an abstract terminology. What criteria do you see must be met to be called self-sovereign identity?
Yeah, first of all, it's ownership of data and ability to control your own identity, not like storing it, just relying on some third party like Google or maybe some service that would store your credentials, and then you would log in there and use your data from there, like just relying on some central party to store your data, to protect it, and then share. And actually, this third party can sell it to somebody. So, in my opinion, self-sovereign identity, first of all, is controlling, then also not being able to, like third party not being able to use it for whatever reason on their own.
To me and to us at Spruce, self-sovereign identity is really being able to, like my colleague said, being able to control your own keys, being able to control your own identifier. If you have a Twitter account and you're using sign-in with Twitter, maybe get kicked off for some reason and you've lost control of your identifier. But using something like sign-in with Ethereum, you have your keys, you can sign anything at all. So it's kind of the idea of self-sovereign. You are in control, and yeah.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily about controlling the data itself, because if you are the one having all the data, well, you can say anything about you, but more about controlling what you reveal. Like, for example, if you make an attestation that, I don't know, like I was here at this conference, I should be able to reveal it to other people if I wish, and there shouldn't be anyone which could be able to destroy this data. So that's how I see self-sovereign identity and the ID.
Yeah, for me, I totally agree with what Polygon ID just said, which is, first of all, control your own data, which is independence, where your decentralized identity shouldn't be interfered by any third party, like such as government, such as bank. You need to have full control of your identity. And the second is it has to be somehow reduce the risk of either financial risk or any sort of privacy risk where cyber phishing, impersonation is happening so prevalent in the Web2 world, and I think a coherent DID should somehow prevent this from happening. And third one I think is really important is a self-sovereign identity. I think it's a consensus now is it should not be a crypto wallet. It should be a proxy to allow users to log in or authorize certain DApp with more security measures and with more service provided.
Thank you. According to your answer, I think the digital identity empowered by the blockchain that we refer to here is a key enabler to the ultimate self-sovereign identity. My next question is, what infrastructure and or technology is needed to build a self-sovereign identity? Or I put it in this way, what features do you think we should have at the infrastructure level to achieve self-sovereign identity? For example, interoperability, privacy enabled by zero knowledge. Yeah. Who wants to take the question first?
So I think one thing we need is maybe a common way to have some kind of maybe credentials, something you carry around. And I think verifiable credentials is a really great way of doing that. For those who don't know, verifiable credentials are kind of a set of claims about someone, any subject, that's made by somebody issuing that claim. So for example, driver's license is a set of attributes about yourself that you could drive, your name, your age, issued by maybe the state, maybe they have a public key or a key they sign with. So something like this where you can hold this credential and use it, present it, and say, oh, look, the state signed this. Nobody needs to go to the state and say, hey, did you sign this? You can look at and see it's their public key, know that they probably signed it. And so I think this is a really kind of core piece, I think a core primitive needed in self-sovereign identity as a way to be able to make claims about things and say, hey, this is me, and be able to show that and be able to maybe only show a certain part of that, right? Maybe I only want to tell that my age, that I'm over the age of 21. I don't need to tell someone else my address. So I think approaches to using these credentials in privacy preserving ways as well.
Yeah, so I'd say at minimum you need signing, be able to sign some message to make some claim about someone, but you can do something a bit better. For example, blockchain, they also give us timestamping. So in this case, we can know that this claim was made at this particular time, and that can make them more credible. Here, if someone can show that, okay, we are all in this conference, and we can timestamp it, we can timestamp the credential, and then someone steals the key after, well, this someone will not be able to make more false claim even if they have the key, because it's timestamped. And lastly, that would be zero knowledge, because sometimes you don't want to reveal the whole information. For example, you may want to reveal that you are above 18. That's the example that you can drink. That's an example, and you don't want to give your whole age. So the base is signing, but we can add other technology on top of it to make more complex kind of claims.
Oh yeah, I think so. In terms of DID, there are many facets of DID. You know, some of the DID is more leaning towards proving you're a human being, right? Proof of humanity, and some others is more leaning towards issuing some certain credentials or giving you some, credit score, based on your on-chain activities. And the next ID, where I'm representing is more of a DID that aggregates all your kind of social relations, connecting your Twitter ID with your on-chain identity, and making sure that, the flourishing identity of your entire social life can be represented in the social graph. So I think, yeah, infrastructure-wise, I see a lot of different kind of DID are flourishing in the industry, and I'm certainly very, very interested in seeing, how far, each category will go.
Yeah, I agree with everyone, because actually being able to prove something that you hold a real credential issued by trusted authority, then also being able to prove in a zero-knowledge manner what actually we are doing without revealing actual data from this credential is a key, I think. Because you don't want to share your passport data in a form of credential just to prove that you're over 18, right? So it would be kind of a dystopian world where you would have all the bad things that we have right now in the Web2, with big corporates having all your data, but then eventually you can end up with provably data that like verifiable data about you, and it could be even worse than we have right now, right? And zero knowledge is a key here to hide this data that you hold, the actual credentials that you have, and only prove that you have permission probably to access something. Maybe it could be a local DAO. You can prove that you are from this local community, and you can vote on something in this DAO. Or you have a specific problem, for example, health-related issues that you don't want to reveal, but you would like to participate in some group, in private chat maybe or something, and you can prove that you have this issue, and you're eligible to participate in this group.
Thank you. There are so many DID projects in this space. How do you picture the future landscape of Web 3.0 identity? After all, every one of us has only one identity, right?
Yeah, probably there will be a lot of projects solving different problems. After all, we have many social media applications, right? Just because we have different groups, different needs, different interests, and same would be true for the identity. You would want, for some things you would need privacy, for other things you maybe want to reveal your game achievements, like you would like to, or if you're a sportsman, right, you would like to share with everybody your achievements and being able to prove that this is yours. So I think there is a lot of place for different projects.
Thanks. I think at Spruce we really think a lot about dApps and what the future of dApps are. Particularly, we refer to ourselves as user control maximalists. Really, we want users to be in as much control as possible of their credentials, of the data, where it lives. So when we think about Web3, it's what enables users to really be in control of even to something like where their data is stored, right? Do you have to use the storage like that your, maybe if you're using like Instagram, for example, do you have to upload your pictures to Instagram servers? Can you give them permission, like give permission to their decentralized identifier to say, hey, you can fetch files from this place, which I control. So that's kind of what we think about is how do we use these self-sovereign technologies and make them available so that people can build new kinds of dApps, so that maybe people want, or they could use a public-private key pair that they have that lives in their phone that they don't even realize to log in, to be able to, just to be able to permission stuff centered around themselves. So I think that's kind of our vision of Web3, where users are really in control.
Yeah, I don't think you will have just one DID project, and we may not even have like DID project being the leader of DID. I explain why. You may have a lot of entities, organizations providing some sort of attestation. So for example, if you have like a degree that's going to be a university, in this case you only have one entity providing an attestation. Sometimes you may even have multiple entities providing the same sort of attestation, but the more you have, the more convincing you are. The example would be for proof of personhood, to prove that you are registered only one time. Like there are a bunch of projects. I'm working on proof of humanity. There is IDNA, there is Bright ID, there is WorldCoin. And what we start to see is aggregator project. So you have Gitcoin passport. They are taking the attestation from all of those entities, and then they say, okay, if you have like both proof of humanity and IDNA, we trust you more to be a unique human than if you have only one of those attestations. So either one unique entity like in degree, or sometimes you want to get more people to vouch on your data to be more convincing.
Yeah, I think for me, the future of DID is, it lives beyond the Web3 world. I see like so many tricky cases in terms of involving people's privacy identity. One example would be US law firm, US law services. So it's a huge liability for law firms to hoard a lot of data from their clients. The law firms, they make profit by litigating cases. They don't make money out of hoarding or mining people's data like what Facebook or Twitter or Instagram do, right? So if we have a decentralized identity allows the users to control their own information, to control their own data, and allowing for example, law firms or healthcare providers to access certain information that they need without having those huge liability, I think that would be an amazing case that the DID can resolve in real life. And of course, I think in the future of Web3 world, I do see this amazing picture where more applications are built up where you can not only having different information by yourself, but also you can choose to show what kind of information to advertisers, and maybe can make a little bit profit out of this. And I believe, building a Web3 social app and aggregating different DIDs into one DID profile could be a very first step, which is, what Firefly, the Web3 social app we're building, is trying to achieve.
Thank you. Some of you think that multiple DID projects will coexist for different purposes. So can you tell us more about how your project will ultimately pave the way to achieve our vision?
Yeah, Polygon ID is a kind of project that is very much concentrated on privacy. It's the main idea behind the project, being able to prove something without revealing data, even though selective disclosure is also kind of possible, but it's the thing that we're solving this privacy with zero knowledge. But also being able, by even hiding your identity, hiding your credentials and so on, being able to prove that you're a unique human, being able to provide this Sybil resistance for the DAOs, for communities to vote, like one person, one vote, and yeah, being able to do different things on-chain and off-chain, like proving that you're not in a sanction list and without revealing your data right on-chain. You could do that, provide this kind of proofs for the smart contracts, for decentralized exchanges and so on. But also you can use same proofs for off-chain world, for regular Web2 applications, and prove some statements about you without revealing. So yeah, trying to fix this problem of data hoarding of different applications, companies storing enormous amount of data that they don't need after they actually provided access to the user.
Cool. At Spruce, we are building, again, focused on Web3 developers and dApps. We're building a couple core technologies. One thing we've done at Spruce is put this EIP forward, sign in with Ethereum. So it allows you to, standard message format allows you to sign in. There's a lot in that format. It allows you to delegate. When you sign in, you can maybe give permission to another key, a public private key pair, maybe it lives in your browser, so that that key can now take actions on your behalf and say, hey, look, I have this signed message. I want to do X. So it can allow you to interact with other resources. Like we're also working on storage, which I'll get to in a second. Like we also are working on stuff that allows you to get credentials. And when you sign in, to provide those credentials. So if you sign with Ethereum, you can also say, hey, this is my Twitter credential, this is my Discord credential. You can issue these credentials yourself. You can just post a message, maybe to Twitter. You can have like a witness, someone who's watching Twitter, and say, oh, like Sam posted this, and issue a credential there. If the witness is ultimately, you kind of have to have your own trust model with all of this, which maybe we could talk about later. But we're working on tools to allow people to sign in, to get credentials, and maybe even to store those credentials and store other data, so that you can have dApps that don't have backends, but users can sign in, pull in data, and use the dApps. So yeah, that's what we're working on.
So at Clarence, we created a Proof of Humanity, which is a CB resistance protocol where you have to find someone to vouch for you. You make some small application where you say, oh, show your address, you say, I certify I'm a real human and I'm not already registered. And then people can look at those videos, can look at those information, and potentially challenge you if they believe that you fail some of the rule or you were already registered. And then that goes to Claros, which can solve this kind of dispute. So with Claros, we have this as a first step, just verify that you exist. But then we could have other steps still in curation to create information linked to you. It could be degrees, it could be nationalities, it could be any information you want to certify on yourself, where you have this mechanism where you put a deposit, you say this information is correct. If you think I'm lying, go challenge me. If no one challenges you, we consider it correct. And if someone challenges you, well, you have this Claros code process where you have to prove what you are claiming about yourself.
For me, the next idea I'm representing actually serves two purposes. One is it's actually trying to serve as an identity infrastructure protocol and giving you the opportunity to create your own decentralized and digitized digital identity, and we call it avatar. It's like James Cameron's Avatar, where it's a proxy of your own self in the digital world. And the second, we're trying to serve as a digital identity aggregator, which we have basically services, and we call it decentralized ID as a service, trying to serve more developers who, who wants to use our service. And one would be identity creation, meaning that Next ID by design can be used as a proxy to log into the app. So instead of using your address to sign certain things, Next ID can be this login proxy. And the next one would be identity connection, which is a graph service I described earlier. It connects your identities cross Web2 and Web3. So now, just by, for example, putting your ENS address to Next ID's database, we connect this ENS address to your Twitter account. To if you do a proof post, connect to your Twitter account, connect to your Reddit account or GitHub account, and also link to your also shows your lens handle if you have claimed your lens address. And the third one would be identity storage, which we created a set of standards for how DID is used in applications and define this DID as service allow users to store their data on their own virtual private server. So this is Next ID is trying to face where on the one end more developers who are trying to connect more Web2 identity to on-chain information, and the other would directly allow the users to use us as a login proxy.
Yeah, I recall that Sam and Afra mentioned the storage part. Do you want to elaborate more on the storage for DID? How is it related? How will this storage, empower DID?
I think if you end up thinking about credentials, and like, wow, everyone's issuing all these credentials, you ultimately ask, like, where am I going to keep them? Maybe I keep them on my device, and if I lose my device, I go and get them reissued, but maybe I need to go to a physical place to get them issued. So where you store these credentials, it ends up being kind of an important problem. There are lots of ways to store stuff, and it really depends on your values, how you store them. You could store it like in a centralized place, but then maybe you lose the decentralized aspect of it and the control aspect of it, where someone could prevent you from using your credentials. So at Spruce, we're working on something called Kepler. There are versions of it built, but basically it's like a private, maybe a private IPFS network where you permission to peers. So you could run your own instance in your basement and say, hey, look, you can access data here. But then I can permission a peer in maybe a centralized place just for backup because I trust that centralized provider. So that's kind of a bit about what we're working on with regards to storage. But ultimately, dApps will be able to request things and put things there. You could say in your sign with Ethereum message, hey, I'm giving permission to this dApp to store stuff and to retrieve stuff from this particular folder. And so when you sign in, all of a sudden you now have access to storage. So, and even if you're signing in, you have credentials. You can grab the credential to verify when you're logging in. So yeah, that's kind of how we think a bit about storage.
I think for now, the storage part is definitely on the roadmap, and eventually what we want to achieve is we want the users to be able to self-host their own data with decentralized P2P nodes and to basically treasure their online reputation and other important information they think would be really, really valuable and don't want to hand it to the evil third party.
So for pool of humanity, well, the base it's stored on chain, whether you are registered or not. And extra information is stored on IPFS. So if you assume that there is at least one honest entity keeping those data will be available. And then if you assume that no entity will do that, well, you can do it yourself.
One last point on storage is like how you trust where your stuff is stored. Maybe you don't, and you can just encrypt stuff. You can always generate an encryption key using your key pair that you control. So we basically have, like by people having keys that they use just for transactions, they actually have a lot of other power besides transactions, like identification and encryption. So.
Yeah, storage is definitely also on our roadmap. We are looking into like end-to-end encryption implementations. where, as Sam mentioned, having user generate private key from seed phrase, from like it could be more or less the same as seed phrase for the identity itself. Yeah, so user will be able to store on his own device, but also if he wants, he can upload it to the end-to-end encrypted storage somewhere. We could be such provider, but in general idea is that we are building set of tools, we are building protocol, and others, other wallets, other issuers, other verifiers will implement our protocol and build their own tooling, including data sharing, data storage layers on top of our protocol.
Cool. We still have some time, and can you share with us what you see that the new ideas in DID space, and how do you portray the future of DID?
And go for it. I think DIDs ultimately are all about interoperability, and it's not just about Web3, it's about how do you connect Web3 to everything else. So I think even it's kind of something I've been thinking about with even like Twitter verification. It's kind of like a thing that's changing. You can imagine being able to use your Twitter verification as like a verifiable credential, and maybe you can take that and use it in another place. So you can, maybe you don't want this, but you can have like gated websites where only someone with a certain credential can access it, right? Maybe you need to, like, it would be weird to have like only verified users on Twitter can access this, but maybe there's valid use cases, right? I think, yeah, I think there could be some negative use cases from verifiable like credentials and having this data kind of exist. But ultimately, we're trying to come up with solutions for that with like the zero knowledge stuff and making sure we can do selective disclosure and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about what is going to enable. Currently in Web3, we are mainly about capital. You know, we use token for voting. Pretty much all your portfolio is fungible. You can transfer it to another address. But now if you have some robust DID, we can make DAOs where you have members which are human members and not like holder of tokens. It's also going to enable stuff like uncollateralized lending. Because now if you can give reputation to people, well, you can have reputation which say, I never defaulted a loan, and if you default a loan, you will not be able to prove you never defaulted a loan. So I think a lot of new use cases will be enabled by those DIDs. You probably won't have one big DID project, but it's more going to be like the exchanges. You're going to get a few big DID projects, and then you're going to get aggregators, and different people will accept different sort of credential depending on their philosophy and the philosophy of the aggregator that they choose.
I think for my next ID team is we're a small, like 10 people team below Mask Network, which is the company I've been working for. This team is very, idealistic, and we attended DWAB the past 2 months, and we're really not seeking to be profitable, but we're here to call attention to data sovereignty and trying to educate and telling so-called users, like, do not be users but be cyber citizens, have this awareness of, there are a lot of things that are actually shouldn't be in this shape, shouldn't be in this like default state, and we should try to challenge it and reshape the future of data ownership and sovereignty.
I think self-sovereign identity has the power to solve some of the biggest identity-related issues in the world, like fighting bots, fighting different kind of this Sybil attacks on voting, on different processes. So definitely voting is a big thing that we can solve and make it really anonymous and secure, trusted one. without third parties or parties that have some power to influence, to impact votes, change them on the fly or something. So yeah, like fighting bots and voting and being in general identity theft could be solved with self-sovereign identity and verifiable credentials, I think.
That also reminds me of even being able to issue like a verifiable credential when you take a photo, and being able to fight like maybe like AI generated content that could be like just deepfakes and stuff. Like just having just the verification of like, hey, this was taken with the camera at this time with this key. It can be an approach to fight for this. So.
Thank you. Just now, I think Clement mentioned the use case of DID in the case of DeFi, right? You can make more, you can issue credit with a valid DID. And Oleksandr gives us the example of fighting bots, especially the use case in voting. You can vote privately and in the meantime, the process is trustless. Can you give us more tangible use cases? Because DID, self-sovereign identity, is an abstract terminology, as I asked in the first question. Yeah, that would be helpful for us to understand more about DID.
So I think we also gonna get permissionless work. Like the example would be what will replace Uber. Currently, like you have decentralized entities, you have to verify driver license, insurance, and all of this. Now, if you can have this kind of DID, you can prove that you have a driving license to be able to drive this kind of vehicle, and you could have this decentralized Uber assigning you a ride, verifying that you are allowed to make those rides. So yeah, like permissionless work, essentially the idea of you want to work somewhere, but you don't need to apply. You just register onto an application, maybe you make some deposit, and then you get some tasks assigned to you. For some of the tasks, well, translation, for example, you probably don't need the ID. You can just put a deposit. But for tasks which are very, like risky, like holding a vehicle, for example, in this case, the platform, the decentralized platform is going to ask the ID to allow you to work there.
I think one way of showing the use case of DID would be, again, the Firefly app I just mentioned, which will be released in mid-December. And everyone, if you want to, come to me and I will give you internal test code, and you can be, one of the first batch of users of this Firefly app. But one of the DID profile integration we're trying to realize is to bridging the siloed social relations, basically connecting different Web3 social universes. Let's say if you post something on Twitter, if you post something on your Lens protocol, if you post something on Farcaster, you should be able to view everything in the unified timeline, and this is something we're trying to do, and we're going to be an open platform where different protocols can join this timeline, can join this NextID empowered family. And I think other than that, this app is also trying to bring in more important Web3 related information, such as a calendar feature to the users. Like if you don't want to miss a DAO voting, if you don't want to miss an interesting event like this in Lisbon, this Web3 calendar is catered to fulfill the need of crypto. Very niche amount of crypto people trying to follow up different trends. So, it's going to be a comprehensive, interesting application we're trying to experiment. So, yeah, I would love to, talk more about NextID and Firefly if you're interested.
Yeah, I think like identity is usable inside DeFi protocols, inside in general smart contracts, right? You can use data provided by the user as a like source of trusted data actually, but also protocols could be an issuer, could be this kind of source of trusted data that could be used in other applications later. Like it could be a kind of portable reputation, portable credit score, or other type of credentials that could be issued by this DeFi protocols, by DAOs. Like I'm a contributor to this DAO, or I'm a member of some group, and this could give you some permission or abilities, or give you more trust as a person, as a holder of your identity, to do some kind of things.
I really like Clement's answer, and it's something that I actually really thought about, is like DIDs and verifiable credentials really enable like disintermediation to like the next level. I think like if you look at the impact of something of like AMMs like Uniswap, literally it's actually been revolutionary. Maybe today we're just like, yeah, Uniswap, whatever. But at the time it was truly like remarkable. I think we are like verifiable credentials and DIDs enable the same kind of disintermediation, where you no longer need a centralized party like Uber or Airbnb. These things can live like in smart contracts and can issue credentials saying, yeah, you stayed here, this is the review you got, the credential exists. And you can maybe like aggregate these credentials and say, yeah, I've hosted so many people, like they've all left these positive reviews, you can stay here. And ultimately, like nobody has to trust this, right? But we have trust in our world, numbers breed trust. And so, yeah, I think the disintermediation that's enabled by this is like probably the most like impactful part, and that will actually change the world.
Thanks. Afra, you wanna share some more information about your latest developments?
Yeah, sure. So on top of the updates of the Firefly app, actually NextID has opened its alpha testing stage, and we have onboarded a few testers such as KN3 and the SwapChat, which will be a decentralized DM system. And yeah, the documentations are online. If you input next.id on your browser, you will be able to see some of our technical documentations you need, and give us a follow on Twitter as well. We'll be updating the development of this protocol. And again, our team is a very small and idealistic team, so welcome to give us suggestions, informations, or just come to talk us and tell us what we're doing is interesting, is meaningful. That would be great. And then on top of this, in the marketing time, Firefly app is going to release in mid-December, and the thing we're doing resonates a lot with what Elon Musk is currently doing on Twitter. And Mass Network is actually one of the earliest contributors to the Blue Sky project, which is a side protocol built by an independent Twitter team. So we have a long history of trying to build a decentralized Web3 social app, and we're still trying to head toward that direction, although there's a lot of zigzags. So yeah, welcome to talk to me. I'd love to demo you more about the Firefly app as well as NextID.
Yeah, so for us on Probability, we are working on a V2 which will be extended to multiple chain, mainly to solve gas cost. And we'll also have a unique identifier that you can recover. Like even if you lose your key, you could make a new application, say you are this person, and get back your identifier, so get back your Soulbound token, get back your DID. And on the Close side, we are also working on the Close V2, which will allow other form of drawing drawer. Currently, drawer are drawn by capital, like you stake some token that give you a chance of being drawn. And we are investigating some mixed model where we count also your token, but also you being a unique human to give you some extra chance of being a drawer on some cases.
At Spruce, we're working on a library that basically integrates a lot of like self-sovereign identity tools into one and makes it available for Web3 developers. It's called SSX. We have versioned it up, and we're going to really launch it in like 2 weeks. So if you want to take a look, go to like docs.xsx.id just to take a look at our library. But yeah, it's a really great library. Highly suggest checking it out.
At Polygon ID, we just recently released a kind of test version of our platform for the issuers, so that issuers would be able to create credential schemas, issue credentials in just a simple UI interface by point and clicking, as simple as this. So they will be able to do start experimenting with that, and later switch to their own issuer running on their own hardware. And also we are working on different improvements to the protocol for the Sybil resistance, for the proof of humanity kind of profiles, like you mentioned masks, like different identities for the same person. So we are working also on this, and end of year, I guess we will have this kind of features.
Great. Thank you for sharing your latest development and updates with us. And thank you, our amazing panelists. Let's give a round of applause to our amazing panelists.
Thank you, Yang Yang.